All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Peter Risen, and I'm here with Chris Wilmer to share our project, Ledger, the Journal of Cryptocurrency Research. The purpose of our talk today is to make you aware of the upcoming launch of our journal, discuss the journal's aims and scopes, some of the work we've done to get to where we are, and the tasks that still remain. So what is this Ledger Journal all about? First and foremost, it's a traditional peer-reviewed journal for publishing original scholarly research on cryptocurrency-related subjects. It's unique to several other academic journals in that it has a very broad scope. We're looking for submissions on the technical aspects of cryptocurrency, such as mathematics, cryptography, and computer science. But Bitcoin is so much more than just a technology. It has the potential to reshape our society in many ways. And for that reason, we're also soliciting submissions in law, economics, and the social sciences. A key value of our journal is open access. And what we mean by that is we want anybody in the world to be able to view the content free without a subscription, and anybody in the world to write papers for our journals and have them published without paying author fees. So why are we doing this? Before I answer that question, I'll give a bit of background about myself. I work as a physicist and an entrepreneur in Vancouver, Canada. And after I became interested in Bitcoin in early 2013, I just couldn't stop reading about it. I read for about 2 weeks straight. But what I desperately wanted was a way to identify high-quality cryptocurrency research that was generally accepted as accurate and important by experts in the field. But I remember as a new user, it was difficult to distinguish the signal from the noise when the media in most cases was comments on a forum, a blog post, or a self-published paper. It seemed like something with the authority of a peer-reviewed journal was desperately needed. There's also proven demand. Brett Scott compiled a fantastic database for cryptocurrency-related papers in Christmas, and it shows that an explosion of papers from Satoshi's landmark paper in 2008, 8 in 2011, 21 papers in 2012, up to 205 papers last year. Interestingly, the papers have been growing at about 3 times per year, which is similar to other Bitcoin adoption metrics, like the number of transactions per day. So what do we hope this journal accomplishes? Well, one, we hope it attracts high-quality submissions. We hope it encourages greater involvement by academics in cryptocurrency because we feel we can benefit from their typically rigorous approach. We also hope that in some smaller way it fosters a culture of peer review within the Bitcoin community itself. And lastly, we hope that in another small way it helps to establish cryptocurrency as a serious field of scholarly endeavor. And on that note, I'll turn it over to Chris Wilmer to share how he got involved.
So, hi, I'm Chris Wilmer. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Pittsburgh, and my day job is computational materials discovery. I probably, a number of you in the audience have experience with publishing papers in peer-reviewed journals, but I thought probably not many of you know about how the sort of academic publishing works behind the scenes. So I wanted to share an anecdote that might be of interest to you. So the materials that I worked on are these metal organic frameworks. It's an exotic new material class, and it came out of the field of chemistry. And then it got adopted by chemical engineers, physicists, mathematicians. The medical community started investigating them, and it quickly became this interdisciplinary subject. And because of my contributions to the field, I got roped into a project to launch a new journal just on this material class. And I got really excited because I was really frustrated with the academic publishing system. I thought there were all sorts of, it was like really archaic. It was based on like printing on paper, and that this would be an opportunity to make like just a better journal that could have, interactive viewing of crystal structures and all sorts of innovative ideas. Everything I suggested to the other journal staff was shot down. And it was shot down because one of the goals of this journal, and actually pretty much all new academic journals, is to eventually be indexed. So indexing here is not the same as indexing in the context of search. When I say indexed, I mean indexed in the context of citations. So when an academic says, my paper was cited X times, or you see a citation tree. It's always with reference to a particular indexing service, and new journals have to apply to indexing services, and they may or may not be accepted. The thing is that these indexing services are run by large, centralized institutions. And these institutions decide what counts as a scholarly journal. So if you come up with like a really innovative journal format that's like with videos and interviews or just something really different, these indexing services might say, no, that doesn't look like a scholarly journal to us. They're very conservative. And so then you don't get included in this citation indexing paradigm, which is very important to academics. So in a strange way, these large centralized indexing institutions are actually creating a limitation on how academic research is done. So as a bit of an aside from our presentation about this cryptocurrency journal, I think it's an interesting problem for maybe people in this audience to think about. Could citation indexing be taken away from these centralized institutions by some clever decentralized technology? Anyway, Ledger the journal. So even though academic publishing is archaic and has all these problems and is very much ripe for disruption, that's not actually the goal of our journal. We want Ledger to be compatible with this legacy academic publishing system, because in the short to medium term, we want academics over the next 5 to 10 years who might be interested in cryptocurrency, but whose jobs depend on their articles being published in traditional journals for surviving the tenure process, for them to be able to publish here, as well as non-academics with good original contributions. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about how this journal project got started. Certainly the idea for a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency journal has been in the air since 2011. If you sort of read on the various forums and places where community members discuss. Peter and I had been talking half-jokingly about the need for a J-Bitcoin on the Bitcoin Talk forums in 2013. And around that time is when the University of Pittsburgh was kind enough to hire me as a new professor. And during faculty orientation, the publisher at the University of Pittsburgh was talking about how it really liked to help the faculty start new journals. The University of Pittsburgh publishes about 30 academic journals right now. They're obviously one of the smaller publishers. So it sort of seemed like there was an opportunity there to seize upon. So then Peter and I reached out to members of the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency communities, and we found a couple of things. One, there was a majority, overwhelmingly positive response. Everyone thought this was a really good idea, that a lot of people would be interested in submitting papers, and certainly I get that impression from this conference today. We also found that several people had already, in various partial stages of completion, started this process. So, for example, Vitalik and Kieran and the CCRG group were thinking about creating a cryptocurrency journal, and a number of other groups around the world. And these groups sort of fell into two camps. A smaller number of people were trying to create this traditional journal, and a lot of people were trying to solve both problems. One, create a cryptocurrency journal, but also solve the academic publishing problem and create a journal in a really innovative, sort of futuristic, on the blockchain, if you will, format. So I think those efforts are still ongoing, but the people in the traditional camp, we sort of merged. After a lot of phone calls, we decided to all work together on this journal. And then the next step was to canvass senior academics to see if they'd be interested in serving on our editorial board. So this is an incomplete slide. We have a few more board members than shown here. But again, we got enthusiastic responses from a number of people at fairly prestigious institutions in computer science, finance, electrical engineering, mathematics, law, as well as some cryptocurrency core developers, Greg Maxwell and Vitalik, thank you. Then we had lots of discussions about policies, about how we want the journal to run. We put together a journal proposal form, which all new academic journals do, to submit to the publisher. And I was actually really nervous about this because Bitcoin in the media associated with terrorism and drugs, and often not really taken seriously by various people in our society. I was worried that this would be dismissed outright, but it was actually enthusiastically accepted. And I think this is this was just 2 months ago, and I think it's kind of a sign of the times, of how things are changing as opposed to 2 or 3 years ago. I think cryptocurrency is starting to be taken much more seriously by the wider mainstream community, if you will. So that's very exciting. Things are moving quickly now. We should have a call for papers, I would say probably within a month or two, so stay tuned. One more thing I wanted to mention, which is what are the advantages, maybe for the non-academics, of submitting your research to a journal as opposed to just posting it on a blog or website. A couple of maybe small things. Academic journals are extremely focused on archiving. There's a very rigorous archiving process that almost all academic journals use. Usually it's this idea you never want knowledge to get lost, right? Even if university libraries burn down, usually academic work is stored in many locations around the globe, and all the university libraries sort of collaborate with each other to make sure that information never gets lost. So, there's a sophistication there. As I mentioned before, academic journals are plugged into this citation indexing system. They're also indexed for search within university library systems. So if you post on a paper on your blog, it might show up using Google, but it wouldn't show up in a library search system. So if you went to a university library and you typed in whatever cryptocurrency topic, your blog wouldn't show up, but it would if it was in an academic journal. And then finally, and maybe not everyone cares about this, but especially for junior academics, it's helpful to have a sort of a credible publishing destination that can be put on your tenure package, so when your department holds you accountable to the publications you make. And we really want this to be as inclusive as possible. With that, I'll pass it back to Peter.
Great, thanks, Chris. So some frequently asked questions. How will the journal maintain objectivity? Now, this is, of course, an ongoing challenge, but the answer I'm going to give is transparency. Our journal employs a transparent peer review process, which includes all the correspondence between the authors, the reviewers, and the editors in the processing of that manuscript through peer review. What about advertisements masquerading as white papers? And I think this is actually a bit of a problem in cryptocurrency. And the answer I'm going to give for this is the peer review mechanism itself and its ability to extract the genuine inquiry out from the noise. Will you publish research on altcoins? We're looking for papers that represent advancements in our knowledge on cryptocurrency. And whether that advancement took place on an altcoin, took place on a sidechain, or took place on Bitcoin itself is irrelevant from the journal's perspective. Why the University of Pittsburgh? We considered carefully going with a larger publisher, but we felt that the only benefit was some added prestige, but that prestige came with an expensive price tag that may have hindered our ability to keep the journal open access. Follow the money. How is the journal funded? Well, the editorial board is volunteers, the editorial team is volunteers, and the money we pay the University of Pittsburgh to run the journal was covered by a grant that we were very excited and happy to receive from Coin Center and on behalf by Jerry Brito's offer. So we're very excited to receive that. So, getting close to the end, what we need from you. If this talk has got you excited and you'd like to be involved in this peer review journal process, please share with us your ideas. We'd love to hear from you. We're also going to be looking for review papers. There's a huge wealth of information scattered across Bitcoin Talk forums, GitHub, that could really be aggregated in a coherent package and published as review papers for posterity. And we actually have funding to award honorariums for people that can do such work. Lastly, we're looking for reviewers. If you'd like to be involved in the peer review process, contact the journal, let us know what your expertise area is, and we'll be sure to send papers your way for review. On that note, thank you very much for your time.
So I was curious. I mean, initially it looked like it was quite a bit broader than just cryptocurrency. Is that just kind of like, I guess that's, I mean, you're using that as a symbol for a broader thing, broader than just currency. I thought I saw some law and economic stuff.
Right, and that's an excellent question. There was some back and forth in. We want the journal to have this broadest scope as possible. So certainly non-financial applications. An argument was made that, you know, when people talk about blockchain technology, usually it still uses cryptocurrency. You know, I guess ultimately it's a matter of semantics. Some people say that even though all the non-financial things we talk about, property, title, voting, it's still using the cryptocurrency technology. But to be clear, it's a broad scope. It's not just currency related topics.
It does, okay, it does have the word, but I guess anyway, it's a little bit.
We debated the title for about a month.
Okay, all right, very good.
And we've gone through quite a process, so I think everyone's, either way, you're not going to be perfectly happy with it, but I think this, we did a pretty good job here. Yes?
If a paper makes citations from other papers that are held by the big firms like Thomson Reuters or Reed Elsevier or whatever, will you be able to, will the user be able to link through to those citations? Will you have access to them?
So Ledger will be indexed by Thomson Reuters. That's the intention.
But will the reader of a journal, of a paper published on your journal, be able to click through to the articles, papers that they're citing?
In general, you could only access, let's say you could only access papers if you have a subscription to whatever journal they're published in. So it's really out of our control. Yeah.
Yes?
So I must have misunderstood, because what you just said sounds like it slightly contradicted what you said earlier about open access. Can you clarify that? Can people just go to like some arbitrary random website without going through a university network and access all of the papers that are on?
For Ledger, yes. Every paper in Ledger is accessible without any subscription. I think the gentleman asked if a paper in Ledger cites another paper published in a different journal, could you access that? And that just depends on the subscription model of that journal.
A little follow-up on that. Are you making any sort of guarantees, at least for the papers that get submitted while you have this open access policy, that they will forever remain open access, at least those ones? And do you have any intention of making sure that the journal remains open access for the duration of its lifespan?
It might actually be written up in the contract with the ULS, but I'm not sure.
Certainly the intention is to be open access forever. And I don't even know if it's possible to take articles that were previously open access and make them non-open access. So that's definitely the spirit, and I think that will be the case. Yes? Oh, I'm sorry. That gentleman, and then can we just be those two? Those last two? Yeah.
Yeah, so I really like what you guys are doing with Ledger. I think it's a real need in the community to share this knowledge. I think it's a great step forward. I'm wondering if you guys consider using decentralized application models like the LTP platform model, where they incentivize the creation of content, they incentivize all sorts of getting involved with the content as well.
Yeah. So as mentioned before, we're intentionally not being too innovative so that we can plug into the legacy publishing system. But it's a great idea for somebody else to pursue.